Yeah.
You are live.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Monday, April 18th. Hopefully everyone had a great Easter. Do a roll call, clerk.
Carl
Here.
Mayor Courtney,
Here.
Dave Carlo.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the minutes from the April 4th meeting. Board, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from that meeting? And if so, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that the minutes for the April 4th, 2022 meeting be approved as submitted.
I'll second David's motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Brian, no adjustments today, is that correct?
No, sir.
We'll move into unfinished business then. We had, I don't have a resolution numbers. Do you have those?
The first one is resolution number, well, I don't know what it was officially. It's going to be the Regatta and Roostertail Festival. I don't know that it got a number originally, it just got tabled, and so it would be resolution number 30B-2022.
30B?
We're going to start, we're trying to differentiate between Board of Public Works and Council resolutions, just to make things a little clearer.
Okay.
What was the number?
30B-2022. See representatives from Regatta here today. I'm assuming you want to speak about the resolution, is that right? If so, we'll have does the board want to make a motion to bring resolution 30-B-2022 off the table?
I'll make a motion we bring resolution 30-B off the table.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Come on up. Hey, Greg, please introduce yourself. And
If we could, why don't we just kind of go through it? Just
okay, yeah,
just
Joe,
so
let's
everybody's on the
start
same
there.
page. So, okay, this is talking about
So would you do your mic,
a
please?
street closure
Thank you.
for the Madison Regatta and Roostertail Festival to be held on Monday, June 27, 2022 through Sunday, July 3rd, 2022. And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that Farm Drive between Jefferson Street and Mill Street shall be closed on Monday, June 27, 2022 from 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. And then be further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that in order to safely transport equipment, they will have the following streets be closed on Tuesday, June the 28th, 2022 from 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Bond Drive between Jefferson Street and West Street, Jefferson Street between First Street and Bond Drive, Mulberry Street between First Street and Bond Drive, and West Street between First Street and Bond Drive, and be further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, Bond Drive, from the west side of the entrance of the Riverboat Inn to the west side of Plum Street, and all streets running north and south between Bond Drive and the south side of First Street between St. Michael's Avenue and Vernon Street shall be closed from Tuesday, June the 28th, 2022 at 8 a.m. through Sunday, July 3rd, 2022 at 5 p.m. And the city parking lot located at 2nd Street and Jefferson Street shall be closed on July 1, 2, and 3 from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. And the parking spaces north of Bicentennial Park on First Street shall be closed from Wednesday, June 29th, 2022 through Sunday, July 3rd, 2022.
Okay, thank you. Greg, good morning.
Good morning.
Walk us through, it looks like you've given us a Regatta 2022 Riverfront timeline. You want to walk us through it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just in case everybody doesn't know, I'm Greg Thorpe, President of Madison Regatta. I was not at the previous meeting, so there's probably some questions you may have that I need to pick up on, so feel free to ask. So it was my understanding that from the meeting there was some questions about day-to-day plans that the Regatta has, why the street closures and the timeline that we have. So what I did was I simply put that out starting on Monday, June 27th, talking about the sections from Bond Drive on West Street down to Walnut Street. So that section is just past Jefferson because of the fact that we're pulling all the boat ramps out of that section. and drive them up and down Bond Drive. There is sometimes that they use the west ramp of the boat ramp, that's why I went down to the West Street. They don't typically take a lot of equipment down that, most of it goes down the ramp on the east side, right at the bottom of Jefferson Street, but that is why the different distance. Also during that time, we start putting up tents. The tent company will be in, and utility work begins that same day.
Will you have security on that day, paid security?
We don't typically have security on that day, no. The
So
team
this
that
has
does,
to be a hard close and not just a soft close.
say again, I'm sorry.
So you're planning on just having a real hard closure on
Yes.
Monday?
Yeah, hard close on Monday from that section. Yeah, they'll continue, they'll work from that morning till that evening, and then they'll continue on work, on Tuesday and then on the rest of the week. So we'll actually expand that, to the full riverfront on Tuesday morning, but on
So you-
Monday, we only need that section.
And then the evening of Monday, will you remove the barricades and open the street up when your work is finished?
I had not put that into the plan, no.
Because nobody's gonna stay there 24 hours, right?
No, they're not.
So could you open the street back up in the evening?
If there's utility work that they're doing, they'll have to actually pick all that up, and then, just having more traffic in that area where we're starting to set up and work is probably not the best idea.
But if you guys are not gonna be there,
We're not gonna be there at night, no, but we don't necessarily wanna have to pack up everything, put it away, bring it all back out the next day, just simply to shut it down
what are
again.
you gonna have in the street?
Uh,
What are you gonna have in the street?
So whatever equipment we take down there, whatever equipment the tent companies are bringing down there, that's primarily, and then utilities. And I haven't talked to the electrician to see exactly where he starts on that Monday, in that section, but we'll start laying out, some of the utilities, getting them prepped for RV spots, for the judges stand, for all that. I'm not sure if he's gonna start in the RV spots because we expect RVs to come in on Tuesday.
You said Tuesday, RV setup on Wednesday.
There's some, let's go through each
Okay,
day,
sorry.
maybe, Carl, and then we can come back and ask questions, because I do see what Greg's referring to here for Tuesday as well.
Okay.
Greg, you want to proceed?
So, it may be an opportunity to open that back up on Monday, but I honestly don't know what equipment we're gonna have set out there, and I don't know what the benefit would be to open that back up.
Well, the benefit would be to the public, because they like to be down there on the riverfront and use the riverfront. If there's any way that you could get.
So we'll have to have the boat ramp closed off, and the judges stand all closed off at that point in time.
Which is below the sidewalk in the street.
It is, yeah, it is. So that's something I guess we could discuss, but on Tuesday when we come in, that's when we're gonna ask to shut the whole thing down. And on Tuesday, we start receiving all the RVs. The boat teams will start arriving Tuesday, Wednesday, coming up from Gunnersville. Several of those boat teams actually bring RVs, campers, whatever they may be, and they wanna get set up as best they can. They don't necessarily always put their boats down the river because we're not set up yet. They'll park those at different locations, but they do at least set up their RVs and campers. The other part of that is our electrician, the city, they'll be helping us, with blocking off the roads, but also, running all the power, getting water hookups, taking care of all that. And that goes from down by the bridge, all the way down to past the, swimming pool. What is that, Elm? I think? Mill.
And still no security at that point.
Security usually comes in about Wednesday, but we'll decide whether or not we need it on Tuesday, and it's usually fairly minimal. It's only a handful of people for security to patrol the area. Depends on how much equipment we actually have, and we'll work that out.
Barricades tend to get moved.
They do. And they get moved even on Monday. They get
Right.
moved, and our guys, I've talked to them, I talked to our pit chair. It's just something they deal with. It's not something we necessarily have to have security. If we need to bring a security person in, but it's just a body that's gonna be down there moving. If they don't have enough, help, we'll bring somebody to help them. Usually as they're moving equipment, they're kind of monitoring the traffic, making sure there's no major traffic so big it's concerned during Monday.
That's Tuesday, right?
Tuesday.
But part of what Carl's asking about is, we know we have Chillbillies down on the river, we've got the lighthouse. How have you accommodated
So the light-
access to those businesses during the early closures?
Well, there's always access to the lighthouse. We always provide access to the entire Regatta weekend to the lighthouse. Chillbillies last year, we just kept that, is that Mulberry?
Mulberry and Vaughn?
It's Mulberry. We keep that Mulberry, gate open. We just barricade it at the Vaughn side of their entrance, if you know what I'm talking about. So that the traffic just stays within his parking lot. That's what we ended up doing last year with them. Okay,
Yeah, please continue.
going to Wednesday. So Wednesday, we continue setting up boat docks. I'm not sure if the cranes are actually coming in on Wednesday. I kind of hope that they do. We have to talk to them because we are planning to run some races on Friday this year. So it's a little bit more important that we're 100% set up before Friday, so that Friday morning we can actually get into doing time trials, testing, and then we plan to run heats 1A, 1B at the Grand Prix, and heats 1A, 1B at the Pro Light on Friday afternoon. So it's essential that all equipment's in place and good to go. So on Wednesday, we'll also ask that we start setting up trash barrels. RVs ought to be finishing setting up vendors. If they haven't already started riding on Tuesday night, they should be coming in on Wednesday. I'd like to see them signed off by the state fire marshal by Thursday afternoon, about 2 o'clock.
Now, the private RVs that are, say, on the other side of Broadway and west, of course, all Vaughn Drive is closed. And usually the RVs come right up to the sidewalk edge. A lot of them put canopies, grills, chairs. Do we have to do that? I mean, could you move back 10 feet from the sidewalk and still have room for the canopies and the awnings?
No. No.
Why? Why not?
There
You get a
there
fire
has to-
truck through there.
Yeah, there has to be enough space between them to get emergency vehicles in and out of there.
But you can see the inconvenience for the people that come down there and walk.
You have to have a wristband to get through the gate anyway.
Yeah, I think historically, I think
On Wednesday?
biggest traffic crowd is in the
Wednesday?
It's
street.
not Wednesday, but the street's closed
Yeah,
off.
well, there's a lot of conversation. Can we,
So,
Okay.
let's have the conversation directed
Yeah,
to
that's
Greg, and if other people have some information, share, if you guys wouldn't mind coming up and helping walk through, whatever the question is.
The RV setup is on Wednesday, is Dale talking about.
Our
And
RVs will
security,
be-
you said, doesn't start till, or your wristband doesn't start till Thursday.
So let's just clarify all that.
Okay.
So there is no wristband requirement until Saturday to be on the riverfront, except for Friday night music in Bicentennial Park.
Okay.
It's the same as it's always been. We're trying to open up Friday to a little bit of racing and keeping it free to the public. So you're right, people will be walking through down there, but that's no different than if you've got a wristband or you don't have a wristband, there's security or no security, the travel pass won't change. We push the RVs up against the sidewalk because of the egress for emergency vehicles. That's the same on the west end, or I'm sorry, the east end down by the bridge. It's really tight down there, so we barely have enough room, so we have to keep them up against sidewalks as close as we can. We don't have enough room. More people walk on the street than they do on the sidewalk typically in those sections, especially down around Hospitality Tent. Typically, it's just people that are in that section that are walking down in front of those, for the most part. Most people walk on the street behind it, which gives them more room if they're out of the way.
But I know I was down there walking last time, and somebody barked at me, I was in his rented area.
Are you talking about
On the
sidewalk
sidewalk.
on the south side
Yes.
of Vaughn?
Uh,
Okay, okay.
I mean, I think they have the impression that they are renting the sidewalk also, and that's okay. It's just an issue that,
It's just somebody's space that they're setting up with. You know, if you go down there to the tarp section or if somebody sets up a chair on the sidewalk, it's different people have different, different mentalities. If you wish to bring it up to our attention at the time, just come get a hold of one of us and we'll help you address it.
Yeah, and I think the way to look at this too is this whole venue area, right? That we want to make sure we have pedestrian access
Sure.
and emergency access, and predominantly the street is where the path of the crowd is going, generally, unless you're maybe walking over to the VIP area.
Yeah. So also on Wednesday, we'll be setting up the stage. That team comes in, that's a big event, takes a lot of people. We'll be posting signage, so we'll have teams going up and down, putting up signs or posters or whatever it may be from some of our sponsors. Again, the cranes, hopefully they start arriving on Wednesday. So moving into, is there any questions about Wednesday? Moving into Thursday. Thursday's the day before the event. Of course, vendors need to be set up. We're hoping we can work with State Fire Marshal, get it in somewhere around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Just kind of put a timeline for the vendors to make sure that they're prepared and ready. So we'll follow up on that. The race teams ought to be set up on the ramp. They ought to be getting ready to go as that day continues. Again, we'll continue setting up judges stand. We will increase the amount of security. And then I kind of put a note here about, we have M3 music that evening down on Bond Drive. So there is some other things on Wednesday night. There's the WRX, typically WRX sponsors the street dance. I assume they're going to do that this year. And then we kind of move into Friday.
Greg, you mentioned a couple of times about increasing security. Is that you're hiring a third-party private security firm?
Correct.
And they'll be down there during the event hours, presumably?
They will be there 24/7.
Oh, 24/7, okay.
Yeah, it's the same company we've used the last few events. And what happens is as we bring in more equipment and there's more things, more people on the riverfront, we bring in more security. There's no sense in bringing in full hit count until we actually need it all. It's just an extra expense, so obviously.
And that starts on Thursday, or?
Usually Thursday, yeah. Thursday night that'll start, and then again, we'll increase more on Friday. So on Friday, again, we plan to do testing, time trials, and then that afternoon, we plan to get into some racing with the 2 smaller class boats. So because of that, it's imperative that all boat teams are in place, that the river's shut down, everything's ready to go on our end to actually start racing. So on Friday night, Bicentennial, of course, we have the Roostertail event. That's we're expecting that to be a pretty good turnout. 38 Special is a headliner, and on top of the security that we have, we are hiring additional security from another group to actually work inside the Roostertail, and these are actually off-duty police officers. There's some requirements from some of the bands that we have certain levels of security in their areas, so we're having to accommodate that.
So what you're describing here includes and encompasses the Roostertail too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, on the music, we're not planning on black plastic on the fencing.
A screen on the fence. Yeah, we have been talking about putting a screen on the fence. There's some issues with security and with safety if we don't do it. So we've been looking at doing it. We've been looking at where to do it, whether or not we have to do the entire area or just sections of it. So, yeah.
Yep. We've had multiple conversations about this, and the city's not approving screening all the way around Bicentennial Park. So if you have a screening plan, we need to know about it.
So I honestly haven't seen where it's asked that there be a screening plan provided.
Well, I'm sorry, that's what,
I was asking.
what's that?
There hasn't been a request to provide a plan, a screening plan. I'm not sure what that is.
Well, we've had multiple conversations that we're not gonna allow screening out Bicentennial Park. So you're right, we haven't asked for a plan because we're not approving one.
So we have to have approval to put up a screen on the fence?
Yes. Well, I think the fencing generally is probably wide 80. What's the height on the fencing
I don't know.
around the perimeter of Bicentennial Park?
Yeah, I don't know.
So I'm assuming what you're trying to do is block the view into the park, and we've said repeatedly that we're not gonna allow that.
Can you explain?
Yeah, because it's a public park and a public space, and we're loaning you the venue for the weekend. And so myself, nobody in the city, the Parks Board, we're not interested in creating that conflict that I'm sure will follow with the blocking out of the park. And we've mentioned it to you multiple times.
You've
So-
mentioned it to me personally, yes. And I've mentioned to you multiple times that we plan to do it.
Well, I'm
So the difference is this, so it is a public area, but we are securing that area for this event that we require people to pay to get into. we have to provide security, all the utility, we have to provide all the stuff necessary to put on the show, and we have to pay for it.
Well, doesn't the fence do the security part?
No, not necessarily, because what happened in the past, and what we plan to do is keep West Street open, just to make this more clear. Last year, we tried to shut West Street down, it caused a lot of problems, a lot of people upset, so we heard you, we're trying to open that back up. But if we open it up, and we end up with a lot of people that camp out outside it, now I have to provide security outside that fence, more security than I intend. Does that make sense? So now I've got paying customers that pay to get into the event to see the concert, and I got non-paying customers sitting on the outside, wanting to sit out there and watch the event for free.
Correct, we don't have any other music event organizer making this request, and we've been clear from the January that we were not going to allow this. If you want to talk about this privately, we can continue to explore options, but you're also needing approval for the facility use. And that's not going to be given if you continue to insist on screening out the park despite our conveyance of how reluctant we are to do that.
So, to be clear, there's no our, it's been you and I. You've not mentioned this as a board or anybody.
Well, are you not the contact person that?
I am.
Okay,
I
well,
am
and how many times, I mean, I don't want to argue with you, I'm just saying is that, and I've mentioned to you too, multiple times, let's talk about that and let's also discuss options. But the insistence that you're doing it despite our consistent opposition to it isn't productive. We need to sit down and talk through it more.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I feel the exact same
Yeah.
way. It's actually reversed that, and we feel the exact same way. So this is the first time that you've given us reason why you don't agree with it. It's always been directed directly from you, not the board, but from you, that you didn't care for it, and you'd like to talk about it. We haven't talked about it, but I'm open to talking about that in the future. I mean, it's not a problem to keep talking about it. But I think that having a venue that we're securing, that we're requiring people to pay to be in, and then saying it's open to the public, it contradicts itself.
It's not. It's a public park that's in the middle of town that you are using the facility for your event, which we're fully in favor of. And we've been consistent in our opposition to screening it out. And in fact, we've asked other music venues, do you intend to do this? And they say, no, we don't want to do that. And so we are all being consistent.
Okay.
So I'm happy to have more conversations with you about it, and I don't know how to be more clear.
No, that's fine.
We're not in favor of that.
So as a board, I'm hearing that from the entire board?
Yes. No screen.
No screen. Okay. So that's the first, just for the record.
Well,
It's the first time I've heard that from the board.
You know what, we just, for the record, we started having conversations with you about making sure the regatta could be planned successfully and safely since January.
Yes.
And this is the first time you've appeared with any resemblance of a plan that we could have a thoughtful conversation about it. So we've attempted to have a lot of dialogue with you about this. And we fully support regatta, no doubt about that. We've just been introducing more structure into the event planning for large, or in fact, it's scalable for the smallest to the largest event, because candidly, what we get here with the Board of Public Works and Safety is very, very limited information. We're just saying, can we put some structure behind it? And I think we shared with you our event guidelines back in February. And we're seeing this for the first time today. You just handed it to us.
So
Well, we want to work with you, just to be clear.
So we're here to work with the city. So
Yeah.
just to be clear, back in February, we presented to the city what has been for decades probably the format required by the city to present, and that was presented to you. Then you asked for more information, and that's fine. I've agreed with you since January that more details and more structure is needed. So it helps us pass on from one group to another, either on
Sure.
the city side or the
Yeah.
regatta side. There's no complaints about that. I didn't make the meeting in June. We had a little bit of a hiccup about who was actually attending and being able to present. It changed at the last minute, and I apologize for that. Since then, I've been proactively working with the city to get details about the format based on those guidelines. The format doesn't exist. So if you read the guidelines, it's very wide open and vague about what it is specifically that we present to you. It's very vague. It's not like fill out this form, this is this. Fill out
It's
this
not,
form.
you're correct, it's not a fillable form, but it's very detailed, plus a checklist, because some of these items may not apply to you.
So which ones do and which ones do not?
Well, this is why, and we're not gonna resolve this today, right, because you're giving this to us for the first time. It does take collaboration between the city and the event organizer, and we shared this with you back in February. And we're happy to meet with you and go over it again to clarify which ones you may or may not, but I'll tell you, in looking at the event planning checklist, and that's on the agenda today, everything applies to you, because you're probably the largest footprint event that's being organized in the city.
So we are the largest festival.
I think you are, I mean, from a footprint perspective and complexity, which is why we're trying to just put some structure behind it.
So and again, I don't disagree with the structure. I think it's a great thing. I think there's a lot of questions that come up with the guidelines about the details about what you need, don't need, what's already been done, not done, when do we do it, when do we not do it, how do we get it approved, not approved. The goal that we have here is to simply secure that we can get access to the city streets during that time frame that we normally do, so that we can continue to move forward with our plans
Sure.
for the Regatta and the Roostertail.
Yeah, and I'll say that once you invest the time in doing this year, subsequent years will go a lot easier, because it's just kind of updating for whatever might be changing in your footprint or facilities or your schedule. And then I know that you're also being thoughtful about what's required at the state level for an action plan. And again, the whole purpose behind this is just to keep everybody better informed and making sure that safety is first and foremost. So you're right. We think that honestly, I think that a lot of work and thought has gone into this, but this is the first conversation we're having about your plan. And I'm glad you're here. Don't get me wrong. I didn't know you were going to be here. I didn't get a heads up that you were going to be here. We would have probably preferred to look at this in advance so we could be less reactive and more thoughtful about our questions. But nonetheless, let's proceed.
So I think we left off on Friday night. So on Saturday, this schedule will change. I'll tell you that. As far as the race sequence and the type of races, it's something we're working with H1 on. Different format for Saturday to change how we do the regatta a little bit. Hopefully put something out there that will please the crowd a little bit more. But as far as the overall time of the closures, the need for security, for emergency services, none of that changes. The overall schedule of time doesn't change, just the events, and that will change a little bit. And then again that night, Bicentennial Park, we'll be doing music again. And then, of course, we do close the river again. We actually open the river up, and then we close it again for the fireworks. And I believe that the permits for the fireworks is being submitted now. I think we just got approval on who the actual vendor is. That is something that we should have actually submitted probably a month ago that we've been waiting on, so shouldn't be a problem hopefully, but we'll get those permits. Now, how that correlates with the city event on the footprint of the regatta, I don't know. Will this same street closure plan suffice? The emergency service plan suffice? If it does, that's great, but it's just something for the city to think about.
I think it would suffice, and I think what happens with regard to the fireworks is you open the venue up. So it's, right, no wristbands required the night of the fireworks, just like in years past. We have, actually coincidentally on today's agenda, we have Zambelli as one of the Zambelli contract for the fireworks on the agenda today to talk about for the city provided fireworks show.
So then on Sunday, again, same kind of plan as typical race day. Starting early in the morning, shut down the river, and then, our goal is 5:30 to open that river back up. Usually at that point in time is when everybody starts their exodus. You'll have some camper RVs that will actually try to get out that night. You'll have boat teams that will be packing up, leaving that night. But they definitely will not all be gone by the next morning. So then on the next morning, on Monday, that's when, we expect everybody to be picking up, cleaning up, and trying to leave the site. Our crew will be down there taking apart docks, tearing down all the utilities that we put into place. It's amazing how tear down goes so much faster than the setup, but it really does. And if we get enough people down there, it definitely makes it a lot better. So a lot of equipment's usually picked up, but in this case, it is 4th of July, so there's probably some companies that aren't working. I don't think the city's gonna be working, I don't know that for sure. So we're kinda expecting that the city will come in on Tuesday to help start removing some of the barricades that are in place that we can't remove. Now, the type that we can remove, we'll definitely open those up as we can, as we're moving along on Monday. So if there's sections that we can actually open up because everybody's gone, we'll open those up. Then on Tuesday.
Well, let me back in on just a second here. So, are you saying the streets don't open back up Sunday night, or you?
Correct. They don't open up until Tuesday.
Okay, Tuesday.
Because you still have boat teams down there. You have RVs, campers, those people that don't get out. And frankly, the mass exodus, it kind of helps if not everybody does leave at the same time. But then on Monday, on July 4th, our team will be down there tearing everything down, taking all the signs down, disassembling everything. Of course, the stage ought to be tore down on Sunday, I believe, since they're done Saturday night. They'll tear the stage down on Sunday, and they'll be hauling that out on probably Monday if they're not done on Sunday. Is the city working on Monday, July 4th?
Our street superintendent's here. We'll maybe ask Tony to comment on this. You want to come up, Tony, and talk about what you and Greg have discussed with regards to barricade removal, and street closures?
I don't think we'll be working Monday. And I mean, in the past, we've always just left the concrete barriers there.
The concrete ones there, maybe just the plastic sawhorses moved out of the way, because that's what will happen is people will move those and they'll be driving along Bond Drive anyway.
What we like to do is, it's always better if we can take the plastic barricades and set them in front on each side of the concrete barriers. That way if you guys could do that, that would help us a lot. But that's what we've always done in the past, just leave them until we come back to work.
You come back on Tuesday? Okay.
So that's kind of the intent of this plan, is that they come back on Tuesday. And on Monday, we continue to just tear down everything. And on Tuesday, there may be an item or two left down there from a company that didn't pick it up on Monday because they're off as well. Usually we try to stage any equipment in one central area for those people to come pick up if we can. The only thing I recall last year was maybe ATMs and something else, or one other item or something like that somebody picked up there. So so then that should wrap up our event as far as the street closures, the need for all that. What I did put on here on the back page is a contact list of our security, waste management, our electrician, and then as well as some of the committee members for the regatta. And then on services, of course, the City of Madison Fire Department is usually on site down in the pit area. KDH EMS is usually down in the pit area. This year we're talking about putting in a first aid station inside of the Roostertail, which is something a little bit new. So we're going to see if we can get some support for that possibly. And then I know, all the local police tend to go up down the whole riverfront as well as KDH, so they're usually on site supporting. Security services is Zimmer Security. Their contacts up there as well.
Is Steve gonna be there the entire 24 hours?
Yeah, he brings a camper and he stays on site.
Okay, so I didn't know if there's gonna be another person for security.
And he has his family, but also he has staff that he designates as supervisors, that there's always people responsible to respond at any given time. And then I put in here the private security edition of Roostertail. It's just going to be a handful of off-duty law enforcement. waste management, so, you know, if there's an issue with waste management, we are contracting a company, A1 Porta Pots is gonna actually be picking up trash. On the Saturday, Sunday morning, on the schedule that you have in front of you, shows that the city was gonna do the street sweep and pick up trash for us on those mornings. But they will be coming in around noon till about 8 every day to pick up trash the rest of the weekend.
That's, what's it?
A1 Porta Pot,
A1 Porta Pot, okay.
that's who's actually been providing services for us. down
So you're
there.
saying that's who's coming in, you say around noon or 8 to pick up accumulated
Noon to
waste?
8, they'll be going back forth up
Noon to
down.
8, okay.
Noon to 8, back forth up down the riverfront. And they're on site, I mean, they camp there, they stay down there, they take care of all the porta pots, all the restrooms, they clean everything. So they take care of all the campers as well.
The St. Michael's, barricades, they're gonna be below the entrance to the rec building, correct?
Correct. And we're actually putting a gate in there, just kind of, trying to work with the new hotel that's there, to help their customers a little bit. So we're kind of partnering with them, to support them and their new business.
Chief Wallace is here. Chief, have you all discussed any traffic management? Because I know, part of the, again, Greg, what we're trying to do here is really understand the breadth of the full event and what other resources it takes outside of the footprint. And traffic and additional security during that week because of all the different activities that occur, and then particularly, the volume of people we'll have on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, causes us to have to think about what's happening outside the footprint. So Chief, I'm not sure if you've looked at this yet or talked with Regatta about the plans.
Yeah, I've not spoken with them, however, we do have obviously a plan in place, we've had for a number of years. We have restructured.
Do you mind coming up to the podium,
Yeah,
sir, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I mean,
Do you have
obviously-
do you have an extra copy of this, Greg, you could give Chief Wallace?
Schedule?
Here, you can have this.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, I mean, we do, obviously, do this for a number of years and have a plan in place. Last year, it was just unbelievably quiet, thank God, and that's a good thing. Pretty much after the events of the evenings, the riverfront pretty much cleared out and quieted down, and just had very limited calls, so we've restructured a few things within the department, not necessarily, for the Regatta, but just as in general with our 12-hour shifts. So, having done that, we have restructured how the scheduling for the Regatta this year. Believe it or not, for the first time probably in the history of the Regatta, there'll be some police officers actually off duty for the Regatta weekend, without, reducing our security really for the event. The only time they'll all be there will be for the parade. There's just no way of working around that. But we restructured some things due to our 12-hour shifts, which had we not would have created a 7-day in a row work week at 12 hours a day for the officers, which would have been, in my opinion, real dangerous.
Well, let's go through the schedule and make sure that
Right.
we've got adequate resources. I know you have the
Yes.
reserve officers, or the part-time officers that will also be able to assist during that week.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, we'll have excellent coverage, also partnering with the state police and the Indiana Excise will be here as well, so, the three agencies and the sheriff's department helps out quite often as well, so there'll be an adequate, enforcement of law and law enforcement officers, throughout the event. I have no concern with the event or with our ability to, provide law enforcement support. Greg had just mentioned something here today, having some off-duty officers within the confines of the Roostertail. Are those local or would they be out of the county officers?
They're out.
Okay, yeah. So I would just, just make contact with them, make sure we know who each other are, and make sure we have some direct contact with them in case they have, situation inside that event. Of course, our officers will be, roaming, within the confines as well. So just as long as we know who they are and have them identified, just so, we have mutual understanding, that we don't run into a situation where they don't know us and we don't know them. We don't want that to happen, but that shouldn't be an issue.
shower facilities. I think that came up last year for the campers. What are you doing there? Nothing? Okay. Thank you, Chief, appreciate it. And then, Troy, I know Troy, Morgan's here, he was talking about emergency action plan. Has that already been submitted to the state? Can we get a copy of that?
As I mentioned in my email last week, the state asks for our information to be sent in up to 13 months prior. So we already have the 2022 lists of events in the city submitted back in December.
Oh, okay.
So typically what we do is we just put what we know in advance in our own minds, just because, you know, we know what's going on. We put that information in. Then as we get the packets based off your guidelines and the document that you provided me, we'll just take and submit those or upload those to Indianapolis as an update to that existing event. If we could get those 13 months in advance, that's fine, but it's not necessary. And EMA really has no bearing on anything prior to how you all want to approve or deny or whatever. We'll simply just take whatever you submit to us after you've got your approved package, and we'll update or upload that as an update.
Gotcha, okay.
So, real quick, so clarify the package that we present to you, we're now presenting to the city, and then presenting to you?
You've always given us in the past your emergency action plan. It has nothing to do with parking and street closures, and we would like to have all that information, but we've always just taken, you know, how you get the fire trucks in, how you get the fire trucks out, how you get the ambulances in, that sort of thing. But all the extra is good for us to have. We've just never had access to it from Regatta or from any organization. And as I mentioned in the past, on the upload section of that system, we just simply put did not submit or did not comply, and we just left it blank. So it would be good to have. We'll take whatever we can get.
Well, and I was just saying, if you're preparing it, right, if you're preparing it for EMA, it would be good for us to have a copy of. Not that we're, you know, screening or anything like that. This is all about building in awareness and structure for all of our public safety officers too.
What EMA has been provided from the Regatta in the years past is just a small piece of what you're asking for. So, I mean, it's just been the emergency action plan. If something happens, we're going to do this, is what we've always been provided. We've never been provided all of the other things that are being asked for now.
And we haven't, I mean, again, this is all a new process, so we're asking everybody to be patient as we work through it for the first time. But again, the whole, you know, precedent for this was the fact that we were seeing a street closure request, and that was it. And we're asking ourselves, where's the rest of the organizational aspects of putting on a major event? Not that it wasn't occurring, it's just that we were never seeing a plan. We were just seeing, you know, turn by turn or street by street closure request, and nothing really that dealt with the overall event. But it has effects that reverberate all through the city, because it begins marshaling a lot of resources to help assist in the planning. And that's why we think it's worthwhile to make this investment, so that we understand how it's organized, how we are providing a safe event, what are we doing in emergencies, what else do we need to do outside of the footprint in order to prepare for an event. So it does require a lot more conversations across, you know, the city of Madison enterprise than just street closure, which is why we went this route.
Troy, while you're there, the information you get from Regatta as far as the plan that's submitted to you, if an event happens on the riverfront, does that go into detail as to who takes charge? If say something, you know, like we had back in 2015 or so, with the car going through the gate, does that go into detail as an event like that happens, what agency, I'm assuming the police department, would be in charge of controlling that event and investigating that and whatever actions that the fire department may be involved in, and you know, who takes control, who's in charge of the scene, if it's a crime scene, you know, how much detail? I think that's part of what we're asking for.
The plan that has always been submitted years past by Regatta to EMA includes the basic emergency action plan and their structure. In other words, they operate off, you know, the incident command system the same as any fire department or police officer or police agency or whatever would. That's prior to or during daily operations. In the event of a major disaster that you've referenced in the past, obviously their folks would be in charge until whoever comes in, whether it be, you know, if it's a law enforcement issue, the chief or his designee, if it's a fire incident, the chief or his designee, then it would take over just like any other event in the city. I mean, you know, the president of Madison Regatta is not going to be in charge of fighting the fire if it's in the city of Madison.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I mean, and that's defined in that plan. I mean, and that's understood in that plan. That's just until the local officials could respond, get there, and take whatever means necessary in order to mitigate that emergency. But it talks about, you know, who's in charge prior to, who's overseeing security, who's overseeing the water safety, who's overseeing all those other pieces and parts. But as I mentioned, what Greg and I were just saying there a second ago, it's only for the emergency issues or the emergency occasions. It doesn't talk about parking management or any of the other things that you guys are concerned about here.
Right.
Right.
Dave, do you have any other questions?
Yeah.
Matt, I think you wanted to say something. Thank you, Troy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to address just a couple of things and concerns that you may or may not have. So I filled out this plan for the last probably decade and a half. And so typically what we'll do is sometime in May, maybe early June, just sit down with all the agency heads and have a discussion about the plan that we've had in the past and what needs to change. And I think that Chief Wallace alluded to that earlier. I can't think of, the only thing that's majorly changed since I have been involved with the organization with that emergency plan is we moved the route from Jefferson Street, to Jefferson Street from West Street because the hospital has moved. And then we've taken out the helicopter landing on site for any kind of emergency. We do all that at the hospital just for safety reasons for so many people and whatnot. So the reason that you haven't gotten that ever before is just simply because I went straight to the agency heads, and we literally have a physical meeting every year to discuss that plan. And every agency that's involved comes there, any law enforcement, the fire department, EMS, emergency management, all the people, all the players from Kentucky and Indiana both come over and we have to sit down and have a discussion about the plan and take care of business that way. We forward that information to H1 and to the Coast Guard. We also fill out all the incident command forms that need to be submitted, all that stuff, the communication plan, you know, who's on what boats and things like that to the best of our ability. Sometimes those things change, you know, it's on the fly. We have a lot of volunteer people, so sometimes boats can't make it or people don't make it. And so we kind of tend to operate on a list. I think 2011, maybe, if I'm right, was when the last major incident happened where the hydroplane safety boats. I wasn't here that year, and it was kind of a mess. The conservation guys and the Coast Guard people decided we were going to make major league changes. So a handful of years ago, we've come up with an incident plan, and that's really not needed to change because it's to take care of stuff. And as far as any major incident that may or may not happen, as Troy alluded to as well, is we have a command structure that melds, and we call it joint command, which any other agency or organization should also have that same plan for you guys as well. And we're happy to kind of take the lead on this thing and kind of spearhead this. You know, we're just looking for the right verbiage to put in there on all business and just how much information you need because, again, this is new to you, it's new to us as well. So we're happy to fill in the blanks for you, and we're happy to kind of take the lead on this whole thing and show every other organization, fair, festival, whatever it happens to be, you know, what they need in their plan and how to take care of business. And it's a pretty simple process. So.
I'll take you up on that because you have to be very thoughtful because of the type of event that you're hosting.
Oh, absolutely. And that's just it. We have a plan in place.
Right,
We just didn't know that you wanted to look over the plan and all that business.
And that's all we're doing.
Yeah.
That's all we started out doing when back in January. We started talking about how do we bring some structure to this. It's all about information sharing, and you can be the lead organization that kind of shows everybody else how to put on a safe event that's complicated, that's in a large footprint, that hosts thousands of people, that's got a lot of different moving parts to it that demand that you have very thoughtful outlines for public safety. That's really all we're asking to do is let's work on that together. So again, the Board of Public Works and Safety here, all we've really seen is a one-page document basically about one of the most complicated, highest attended events that happens in the largest footprint in the city.
Sure. Well, I
think this
just,
is-
yeah,
yeah.
just to be clear, it's, I mean, that's why we sent that to all the agency heads, like your fire chief and the city police chief, and I've talked with Tony on multiple occasions about plans and things like that, so I think the players that we knew that needed to be involved have always been involved, and they've been privy to that plan, and been a part of making decisions about that plan, because they're the ones that.
Well, that's what we started talking about
So
earlier.
I'm
too.
happy to send,
Yeah.
I'll send you all the emails you want.
Well, I don't want, no, I'm
I-
just saying is that and then this isn't just about Regatta, we did 40 of these last year.
Sure.
40,
Yeah.
right? And so the minute somebody walks in and says, I want a street closure, it just starts marshaling all of these city resources. And then sometimes it can become very chaotic. We're trying to coordinate it, organize it, a lot for the time that it requires, and still get, the work that has to be done to do the specific role, whether it be streets or utilities or public safety. And so we're saying, let's just be thoughtful and work a little advanced on what you
Absolutely.
described
Yeah,
here,
we
so
totally
we all
agree.
understand what that requires, because when I use the term marshaling of resources, that's happening without anybody else, frankly, it's without anybody here, for example, being very aware of it. And we're just saying, let's put a little structure behind this so that we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, I think we have everything that you want, and
I think you do
probably
too.
a whole lot more.
Yeah, I believe.
And I just didn't know we need to send it to you, but then if that's where you want,
Well, that's why it was a
I'll-
bit of the genesis of this
Yeah.
guide and requirements, so that when someone comes in and says, hey, I need a street closure request, well, rather than, okay, here you go, just turn it in, it's, well, have you thought about these things? And again, out of 40 occurrences last year, I think that most people have thought about this. We're just saying, look at this checklist. Some of these things will apply to you, some won't. You may have a one-day event that's just in one park and it's not applicable. But put some thought into a plan, and everybody will benefit who's doing this, candidly, including us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, and I even mentioned to Hannah, it's been a week or two ago now, hooked her up with the guy, they can come in and do some mapping, and then lay that over the GIS map system that we have here in the county as well, so that way we can mark all the water meters downtown, we can mark where the fences are gonna go, all that business, so it will be a scalable model of where the fencing goes. And quite frankly, I think probably everybody needs to do that.
Well, I
And
think
I'm
we-
sure that Tony would be happy about the fact that he knows to the centimeter where those fences need to go, so we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Well,
And there's no changes and all that bit, so.
there's a lot of coordination of resources that's required that then gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you get closer to the event.
Agreed.
And I'll give you just a rough example of kind of. This is kind of what we get a little bit, that accompanies a street closure request, and then we're like, well, let me just look at this for sure and see if it's,
But we don't always get that.
we don't always get this. The fact that we have such a vibrant tourism economy really dictates that we be better organized.
Yeah, I don't think
This
you're
is
gonna
just a
get
couple
any
of
disagreement
things.
for us at
Right.
all. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, I'll give you everything that you want, more than what you've ever asked for, if that's what you need.
And we can learn
I'll be
that,
happy.
from what you described, we can learn from that and take those best practices and share that with everybody. Everybody wants a good, safe, fun, successful
Yeah,
event.
absolutely, and I think our event, to your point, is we've tried to make pretty major league strides over the last handful of years to make a marketable difference in the relationship that you've had in the past with the organization.
But I'll tell you too, something of what we're reacting to, which we've talked about on multiple occasions, is that accidents and bad things do happen sometimes, and we just need to be thoughtful about the planning part of it, so we all know
I
what's
think
going
we're
on.
200% ready for that to happen.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
think, Matt, I think we all know that you talk to and meet with department heads in your planning of the event, but we don't get any information about those meetings. and
Well, it's happening
production plans.
it's happening very informally, we're just trying to
Yeah.
put some structure with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I guess I would just
Yeah.
made the assumption that would have been filtered to you from your agency heads rather than.
It happened very,
Yeah.
very informally.
Yeah.
Very informally, and that's what we're saying is, and I think too that in their defense, they obligated to help and support tourism across the community. And we just, again, are just trying to organize so that we know exactly what's happening. Because sometimes we're doing multiple events in the same week. And how do we allocate resources around and do it effectively?
Sure.
So
Yeah,
some
we're
structure
on the
behind
same
it.
page, I promise.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that with us.
Thanks.
Greg, anything else to share with the board?
No, I think as you can see from the past president, Matt True, and then some of the department heads, the EOC, that they, like Matt said, you know, we've been doing the plan, they kind of know the plan, it just hasn't been filtered up in this format to you, which is, again, as I said early on, I agree that format needs to happen, because what if one of those people weren't here, one of the key people isn't here, you know, next year to help out with that. We'd have that plan in place that we could follow either from the city side or the Regatta side, that would help us all out.
Thank you. Anything else you want to add, Greg? Carl, you had a quick, well, I'll tell you what, if you're okay with it, let's go to back to the resolution.
Okay.
Greg, is that, you want to go back to the resolution now?
That's
Okay.
fine.
On the resolution, it says, streets will be closed Tuesday, June 28th. I think I should read Monday, June 27th.
Well, it says here at the very beginning paragraph.
You have broken it out?
Yeah, because the.
Okay, it's up there,
The
okay.
second paragraph just deals with certain streets, and then
Yeah.
the next one deals with certain streets on a certain
Okay,
day.
Yeah, right.
All right, just a point of clarification, thank you.
Board, any questions on resolution 30-B-2022, Madison Regatta Roostertail Festival, that was tabled to 2/7/22? Any additional questions for Greg or his team with regards to the timeline and the coordination of resources? And I think Matt indicated he would share with us the emergency plan. Is that correct?
If you'll send me email addresses, or if I get them before I can leave, I'll load your email up.
Be happy to, thank you.
Then I make a motion to approve resolution 30-B-2022.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Just out of curious, so I can understand. Because this one, a lot of times when the festivals come, we put it here, Bicentennial Park. This doesn't have Bicentennial Park actually listed in here as being closed. But so I didn't know if that's gonna be, if we're gonna come back to that.
Well, I was
The question
thinking
is-
that would be handled through a facility use reservation. I mean, as far as I know, here are the city assets that are being closed, besides the streets that we're talking about here. Bicentennial Park, the lot at the corner of Vaughn and Jefferson, is that correct, Rick?
Correct.
And the parking lot at the corner of Second and Jefferson.
Correct.
Is that all?
Yeah, there's a City of Madison facility use and parks. Was that with the original application? This
Yeah.
was part of it, so I don't know if you have that.
No, we haven't seen that.
That doesn't come to this board generally speaking.
No, but that's what we're trying to do, is get the entire plan together, so we have not seen that, no?
You haven't seen that, because I got it from your clerk the other day. I got a copy of it.
I mean, you already turned it in, or you just have this form?
Yeah, it's been turned in. It was turned in last time. It was turned in back in February.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I said, usually,
No?
when we're doing a festival like this, the actual park gets included.
Okay, well, you wanna,
Oftentimes in here.
do we want to amend the resolution to include all three of those locations?
I'll move it, that we amend it to approve the three parks.
So we're talking about the parking lot, the lot at corner of Jefferson and Vaughn, and Bicentennial Park,
And Fireman's Park?
and Fireman's Park.
All parks.
second Carl's motion to include those 4 specific assets of the city. Any discussion?
And maybe for next year, those could be included in the resolution.
Well, we're gonna amend this resolution to include them now.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
I'm
as
saying
part of the
going forward.
plan going forward,
Do you want this?
if
There's
you
a lot-
mind,
yeah.
that'd be great, thank you.
This was
a lot of times resolutions are just submitted, copied year from year, and
Thank you.
they're not amended, they're not updated, so.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Joe, are you clear on the amendment to the resolution?
Get that figured out.
Any discussion? Let's first approve the amendment. Any additional comments or questions from the audience?
Do you need to include Harkin Matthews in that too? There's a lot of parks on the river.
Well, West Street is remaining open,
Okay,
so.
okay.
With Greg,
Sorry, it's on that list.
So the facilities to be used, Bicentennial Park, Fireman's Park, Hargan Matthews, J.C. Park, Kiwanis Park, Lamplighter Park. In addition to the 2 lots, the one at Jefferson and Bond, and the parking lot at Second and Jefferson, correct?
Correct.
Or the other option is you can just basically say that they utilize any parks that are located within the footprint of these street closures.
That would work too.
Let's just do that.
Okay, that would work too. In addition to those
Yeah.
other 2.
Yeah, and because they're so big, I'm thinking like when Riverfest, when they come, it's specifically Bicentennial and Fireman's, usually because they close Fireman's for camping.
Yeah.
Or the other ones, general, they will ask for a closure of Bicentennial Park.
Yeah. Question, Chris?
Nope.
Okay, we're voting on the amendment.
Did
There was still a
anybody
discussion.
second? I'll second.
He seconded it, you seconded his amendment?
His amendment.
Okay, as clarified by council. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now let's go to approving the street closure that's presented in the amended resolution 30-B-2022. You want to make your motion again?
I'll make that motion, amendment.
Oh, you've already amended it. Now
Yeah.
you're approving the amended.
Approve the amendment.
Okay,
And I'll second that one.
okay. Any discussion? Any comments or questions from the audience? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And still happy to get together with each other and talk about the Bicentennial Park issue.
Well, I didn't shut that mic off, but. Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to do that so that we can understand all the policies, rules that come with that, because I don't know that we have that list.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, that was productive. We have one other item. You want to give us the resolution, assign a resolution to the other unfinished business that we can vote, if the representatives here, we can take off the table.
I don't think there's anybody here for that.
Anybody here representing the Hispanic Cultural Awareness Day, tabled from March 21st? Okay. I'm going to call for a 2-minute break. Be right back. We'll get started on new business.
2-minute break.
2 minutes.
Gotta go to the bathroom.
Right.
I broke the mic.
It won't come on.
I think you're ready to taste.
I think so.
Switched up a couple times.
We'll try to get a hold of these security guys and somebody from that
Yeah.
comes out to that meet and greet stuff, so. we can-
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know,
that's good. You get an X-ray
All right, thank you. Reconvene the meeting. Zambelli, contract for fireworks, Ashlynn White.
Told her I would join her because you told her you're gonna have lots of questions.
I was just kidding.
I don't believe you.
Well, this is part and parcel to the conversation we just had with regard to Regatta. So give us the overview for Zambelli's contract, please.
Zambelli's is the same company we've used over the past few years. We have already been in contact with the Coast Guard through Matthew and Ken Washer. We've already secured our barge and requested our barge from Nugent. So Hannah and I have been working on our own event safety plan with John Wallace as well as the Coast Guard and the fire chief, Ken Washer.
Good.
This year our quote did go up from last year. So previously our quote for fireworks has been $25,000. This year our original quote was actually $36,000, which is a 44% increase.
Wow.
We were able to work down to $30,000. So we've already secured around $13,000 of our sponsorship. We're still waiting on our title sponsor, as well as a few other small sponsorships, but we're getting there.
And in the past, I know we have a very generous community with regards to the supporting the events across town, and you fully anticipate to fundraise the balance?
Yeah, we do. I know previously we have, in the past at least 2 years with Hannah and I being here, we've gotten it fully covered.
And one thing I would like to point out is that this is the same time schedule as years past. I looked back and our contract, our proposal we received April 7th last year for Zambelli. So same timeline in the framework of securing that contract. The only thing is we did not 100% say we were going to go with Zambelli because when they raised the price by 44%, that seemed a bit absurd. I understand the cost of everything's going up with inflation and just getting the materials and everything. But we actually entertained finding some other companies to go with who were able to give us a better price, and that brought Zambelli's down. So there was a lot of negotiating, which did delay this. We would have had it ready to go in March, but it's the same time frame as the years past. And Kim Washer helps us a lot with the fireworks.
She's
and
awesome.
Yeah, she really is. It's her baby. Even though it's the city fireworks show, it's her baby, and she'll always take care of the fireworks as long as she wants to. But she will again assist Ashlynn with filling out all the documentation that's going to be required from our offices to Zambelli and then Sherry has the loading location set, the barge, all of that, as Ashlynn said.
So today we're talking about the fireworks proposal, but just like we just had a lengthy conversation with Greg with regards to the event guideline and plan, where are we at on that?
So it's nearly done. A lot of what we have been waiting on is to see the regattas plan, which I haven't gotten their full event guide planning requirements back from them. I haven't seen anything actually. So we know that that area is going to be closed because of the regatta festivities. It's fenced in, but then it's open to the public, so there's no wristbands required to attend the fireworks show on the riverfront. We did meet with John. We met with Kim Washer and met with Kim last week to talk about the parade because we know we need to have a traffic management plan and change some ways we're doing things. And we mentioned this as well because the police department has a plan in place to help guide traffic afterwards, because that's going to be our big key, is making sure that traffic management and the pedestrian management is controlled. So John has something he's going to get to us, please. But we just met with them a couple weeks ago to make sure we have our portion of this, and then we'll have the portion also for the parade, which is a bigger ordeal.
Well, there's a lot of activities that are embedded in the 4th of July weekend. Our next meeting's May the 2nd. We still have a couple of months prior to the event. We'd be ready by May the 2nd to present the plan for the parade and the
Yep,
Fireworks.
and then there's also like the water ball fight and all of that, so
Okay.
I told Kim I'd work with her if we need to do something separate on that, the water ball fight, to have that documented. So this is just for the contract, there's a lot more paperwork that goes into fireworks after this.
Sure.
This is just so we can put in a deposit.
Okay. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
Hannah, reviewing the contract, I don't remember seeing,
What page you on there, Dave?
well, any
Okay.
page.
Okay.
In the event of inclement weather and
We
delay.
pick that date, so we usually pick the Sunday afterwards, in case there's inclement weather and we can't shoot off the fireworks. So fireworks shows on Saturday and the rain date will be Sunday.
Which
Sunday.
we've secured both
Yeah.
with the fire company and the guards and
Yeah.
the barge.
Matt, you have a comment?
Yeah, so we'll need to talk to the Coast Guard about the river and the shutdown situation a lot bit because of the explosives and all that bit and potential risk. So we've submitted, I just sent that today, Kim got that to me today. That was the last piece that we have for the permit of the whole river shutdown. And and we'll also need a safety team that can get out in the water to make sure if something happens, like one of the guys lighting the fireworks up, whatever, needs to jump off the boards, take off and do all that business. So if there are any other alternative dates, all that bit, we're way past the deadline to submit to the Coast Guard about changing that date. And they ask those permits to be shipped, to turn into them 120 days before an event happens. And so typically we've just turned that in with ours because we have a safety team down there ready to go all that business and we have all the other people ready. Coast Guard typically does not bring a boat. Indiana DNR does, Kentucky DNR does some prize all that business. So that just kind of become a part of our plan. And we've historically just taken care of business that way. So I'm sure you know one of them knew this either. But to change that date, it's
Very difficult.
it's going to be pretty hard, and
Well, you're talking, like you say, you're talking about
Yeah.
closing the river.
Yeah, I'll have a conversation. with them.
It would go along probably with if you had a weather event that, you know, delayed Saturday's racing, that
Sure.
you did
Yeah,
something on Sunday.
yeah, we got to figure out because they give us the time, and that typically is it. And but that plan's been turned into those guys, so I'm expecting at least maybe even as early as today to get that stamp of approval for the fireworks and the river closure for the boat race as well.
Thank you, Matt.
And I will say, I do have a map, because like Matt said earlier, he put us in contact with someone that does mapping, and it's actually an app that they use. They explain this to us, so I do have a map for their safety plan for the river, if that hasn't changed. I have that, because the guy Matt works with actually sent that to us.
Well, as
Which
we
is-
learned, there's still a lot of coordination to happen between now and the actual event date. This was just kind of part of it. Fully expect all the event organizers to be working with the different members from the city that would be responsible for some part of the festival that week. So that's going to be continuing for the course of the next 2 months. Any other questions? Carl? No?
I'll make a motion, we approve the contract for the fireworks for July the 2nd.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Comments or questions from the audience? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Ashlynn, that wasn't hard, was it?
Staying up here with this?
I'm saying,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This one's resolution number 31B-2022, resolution of the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, regarding a City of Madison event planning guide and requirements. Whereas the City of Madison has proposed the adoption of the City of Madison event planning guide and requirements, and that's in Exhibit A. Whereas the Board of Public Works and Safety believes that this guide requirements and requirements therein will be beneficial for the citizens of Madison and provide the necessary safety for future events. And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the City of Madison event planning guideline and requirements is hereby adopted and shall be utilized to guide all future events in the City of Madison.
Kenny, you want to give us an overview? I know we've talked about this several times. It's been out for comment on our website. You've probably had conversations with VMI and other event organizers about it.
yeah, so we've actually met with a couple events regarding this, and a couple of them had some concerns, so we just sat down with them, showed them what would apply. One thing that's always going to apply to events is their emergency management plan. It doesn't matter how large the event is, you have to have emergency planning. So we've even put this together for our movies in the park, which is just in Bicentennial Park. We don't close any roads or anything. It's a small crowd that comes, but we put this together for the movies in the park just to make sure, like, hey, we're doing it as well. Because we are using that park facility, and we do need to have an emergency management plan, a point of contact, who's going to alert if there's inclement weather, who's going to be there. We're even going to get a first aid kit in case a kid falls down and we need to give them a Band-Aid. But then the larger scale events, one thing that had been mentioned by Greg during the Regatta discussion earlier was that he's had these conversations with department heads, but he has just assumed that it's made its way to the mayor. A lot of what happens here in City Hall is you have like a wealth of knowledge. For instance, Gina's been here for a long time, so she knows. She'll say, oh, I know how this event runs. But we don't have that documented in any way, so if Gina were to leave or something were to happen, we wouldn't have any sort of documentation of what the event needs, or say everyone at that event walks out and doesn't want to do the event anymore, that event would no longer have the documentations that they need. So this is to help everyone. It's to help the events to be better organized, and it's to help the city know what sort of resources are needed. And then it's also to require that these events get on top of this and not just have a conversation a week in advance saying, hey, we need to be able to use these facilities and do this, because that's what we've seen happen in the past is the events expect the city to drop everything and give them what they need, and we just can't do that. We have limited staff here, and we need to be able to manage our time in the events. We just need them to be better organized. So like I said, we've worked on these for ours. We just had a parade meeting. We have our traffic management plan for that. We're changing some things because, like I said, in the past with the Christmas parade, we had to change some things. We've worked with John to make sure we'll have patrol cars down there. So the city's doing this, and it's helpful for the events to do it. We just met with Mad Hop. Even though theirs is in mostly private venues, they are going to be doing part of their event here in City Hall. So we told them, this is what you need to provide to us. These are the things that are going to be applicable, because not everything is applicable. But if you read through this event guide, there's a checklist on the front page, and then everything just goes into detail to tell you exactly what we're looking for, what we need from these organizations. So it's to help both parties.
It really does provide organization and good communication, and an expectation of what resources are required, so we can eliminate any misunderstanding or conflict of what one thought we were doing or we thought somebody else was doing. It just makes practical sense, and candidly, I think that the majority of the events are already doing this. We're just asking them to maybe organize it a little bit better so that we can do it. And I'll mention too is that as Hannah was talking about, there are events that are happening across the community where they're not requiring a street closure or a facility use. However, there's going to be the expectation of large amounts of people in town that weekend. We need to be prepared for that because traffic safety is really important. Emergency response is really important. And, I think asking the questions provokes the response, which is, wow, maybe I should get a little bit better organized, because again, not every event requires the use of streets or facilities, but it almost always requires city resources. And that's what we're just trying to get better at, and this is, I think, a good step in the right direction. And again, the first year is always the hardest because we're asking people to do something new or put more thought into it, but the outcome of this is going to be better. Hannah, we talked about a fillable form that might help events.
Yeah, so
I know this has already taken a tremendous amount of work to get it organized to this level, but where are we at there?
I spent 4 hours working on a fillable form. Unfortunately, our website doesn't allow for document uploads. We've asked the developers to look into this for something for the future. So a lot of it is going to be like, oh, we need your site plan. Now you're filling in this form, but make sure you email your site plan to myself. So I'm still working on that. It will help people to see that this isn't applicable, because they'll say stuff like are you using any park facilities? Check yes. If you are, this is what we need from you. But again, I spent 4 hours on it and got a little frustrated, so I had to take a break from it. But I am working on it. So I wish our website was a little more friendly. I saw what Troy has for people to fill out for their emergency plan, and they can upload documents, and I thought that was great. So I wish we could do it, or if we can somehow combine those. I'm not sure. I told him I want to meet with him, because it would be nice for them to fill it out once instead of numerous times.
Board, any comments or questions? I think we've seen this document multiple times now, and I would also just add that, you know, this is a guideline. We're just, it's subject to evolving like anything else. And we're gonna learn from our event organizers on best practices. Matt had some fantastic suggestions today. And we'll incorporate best practices in, and I think that sharing that information with all the other event organizers will help them too. So go ahead and motion to get this approved, and we'll have more discussion.
I make a motion we approve resolution 31-B-2022.
I'll second Carl's motion.
Okay, now let's open up for discussion. Any comments or questions from anyone in the audience?
Yeah, Patrick Tevin on 106 East 3rd. I had a constituent reach out with some concern. The folks who organized the Mill Street block party, they were worried about the insurance requirement they saw in this. Can you tell us how that would apply to really small, like Mill Street, Elm Street has one, Broadway, I think, how that would work for us?
Yeah, thank you, good question.
The insurance is not new. It's always been a requirement from the city. So that's not a new addition.
I mean, do you want to explain what, is it $1 million liability
It is
policy?
$1 million
Okay.
liability policy,
Okay. Yeah.
a minimum.
And I would just say from a practical matter, we get sued all the time, and then it's turned over to insurance, and then the insurance company resolves it, and that policy's there. This is still part, you know, what you're bringing up here is risk management, and that's a big part of this too. Did that answer your question, Patrick?
Yeah, I guess in the past, they had told me they didn't have insurance, and I guess the city hadn't pushed for any proof of insurance, so that requirement has been there. They, for a street closure, like a one block closure there, they're gonna have to provide that. proof
Yeah,
of
I would
insurance.
say it was listed on like our facility use forms, but no one had thought to bring it over to street closures. So there's a lot that even our facility use forms need some updating.
Glad we're having that conversation.
That might be difficult for some of these small kind of impromptu block
Well,
parties.
I think you can get, like, I don't know much about insurance, I don't handle that, but I'm pretty sure you can get a 1-day event. I had to have it for my wedding.
Any other comments or questions? So we have a motion to approve and a second, approve resolution 31-B, adopting the planning guide and requirements.
Just one quick
Matt, you
question.
mind coming up, sir?
I
So we
will
can
have to go.
get everybody to benefit from this.
Yeah, no problem. Sure, Madison Regatta. If Hannah has a traffic safety plan for a couple of events that they've got, can we get a copy of that? So that way our verbiage matches what your verbiage matches, and the expectation we'll be able to meet that. So,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah, Hannah, you want to respond to that?
Can do.
And
Thank you, Matt. Any other comments or questions? Go to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, everybody. Moving on, another resolution. Is there anybody here representing Derma Bar? Okay, come on up, sir. Joe? How you doing?
I'm
He let the council's gonna read this in the record first.
Okay, this is resolution number 31-B, 32-B, sorry. This resolution, Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana. Sorry. It's never good at anything.
Tell me about it.
Resolution for the Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana regarding a street closing for the Derma Bar open house with Rusty Blade Painting. Whereas there has been a request from Wallace and Langdon on behalf of the Derma Bar for a street closing in connection with this open house with Rusty Blade to be held on Thursday, April 22nd, 2022, or 28th, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that Mill Street running north and south from Main Street to the alley between Main and Third shall be closed from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Thursday, April 28th, 2022.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I am Tony Langdon. My wife Sue and I do have the Derma Bar, 630 West Main, and my wife had been asked by a lot of her clients to, pick up on a couple machines that we've already bought and want to introduce to the community. And we were, you're kind of restricted in the facility itself, and Sue had thought possibly if we could do something like, I guess you guys normally do over here, have a short section of the street blocked where we could have Rusty play. He's volunteered to do that, and introduce to the clients and possibly future clients these new pieces of equipment that we've purchased. And in the normal process, but now the date that he mentioned on there has now become a problem, so we would have to back that up to like the 26th of May if we're able to do this. That would be on a Thursday, and it would be, that Rusty would be playing at that point from like 6 to, looks like 9 o'clock, 3 hours.
But you want the street closed probably prior to set up?
Well, yeah, probably would be nice to have, she's got on here, it says 4 p.m. to 9.
Yeah.
So I'd say everything's the same as what you read except for the date.
Tony, thank you for coming in today, and I know that you've had to sit through a lot of conversations with regard to the value we're assigning to event planning, scalable, large or small. The good news is that I think that it is scalable, so there are some things that may not apply to you that would apply to Regatta, for example, since this is a small section of the road and a much shorter duration. How many people would you expect to attend?
It's hard to say. We've got a pretty good clientele, and we've also got quite a few people. It's not really clients at this point that have interest in what we're doing, so I don't really have a number right off the top of my head. It's how it is. A lot of times you can think a bunch of people, and it may not be half of that.
Or the opposite occurs.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect a huge crowd, and it could come and go as the hours are. It's stretched out, so it could. I don't expect any more than probably 100 people at a time at one particular time there.
What will actually happen? I mean, you indicate this is an open house, but it sounds like you said equipment in some form.
We've got new equipment that does a variety of things that we haven't had in the past. So I don't know exactly what you're wanting there, but
I mean, are you moving the equipment outside?
No, the equipment, we've got limited space inside where the equipment's at.
Okay.
So what our plan is we don't want everybody in there at once stuffed in the building. So if we can have them outside, Rusty can play, we can hand pick a few people bring them in at a time, and then just inject those back out into the crowd or whatever, and then bring some more in. That type of thing during the period of time. And, that's, I guess, pretty much what we're trying to do.
I'm just trying to visualize what you're doing and just ask a few questions if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is this something that would work around the perimeter, of the building, like the parking area rather than the entire street and half a block? You know what I'm saying?
you mean where you could have half the street to continue on through, or?
Yeah, where you essentially are blocking off parking area.
We
and I
could,
don't
if we
know if
just
you have
had space
tables or
outside,
something.
I think half the street, or, you know, the one lane could be possibly
Again, I don't know if
enough.
that's safe or not. We'll have to just
I don't
ask
know,
our public
but-
safety officials if that's the right way to do it. I'm trying to figure out, you know, does the anticipated crowd warrant closing off a whole street?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know. I mean, there's gonna be quite an interest in it, I think, but,
Is there any registration that's required of it? Will you get an idea? Are you serving refreshments? Will you get an idea of like how many? I mean,
we thought we would probably talk to the attic across the street from us and give them the opportunity to possibly benefit from the, you know, the event as well. We probably plan to spend, you know, a little time with, small, refreshments and so forth, there near the building of ours. But, you know, we're looking to, basically just stir up a little bit more interest in what we've got coming in and so forth. And we think that, we'll have, you know, a decent little crowd there possibly, but like I say, I don't expect any more than 100 people at one point.
I was wondering if, just as an example, and I'm not sure you were here then, Tony, but a couple of years ago we experimented with bump outs on Main Street that blocked off the parking. These were concrete barricades, particularly during COVID, where you could have more outdoor space, for example, that didn't involve a full street closure. I'm just wondering if that's an area that actually creates a demarcation for your event. You can then decorate, it's safe, you put tables out there,
Right.
there's a place for, I mean,
I think that's fine.
you're not using a stage, are you?
No.
For Rusty?
No, he'll just probably bring, I think it's a 3-person group, him and his son and a little guy that plays drums. And I think that'll be about it. They're not gonna require a lot of space or anything like that, but they do need to have room to set a little bit of equipment up and keep people, you know, from, running into them and so forth if they're, in the street. But I think a portion of the street, like you're saying, would probably be adequate if, you know, because like I say, they'll probably come and go during those 3 hours. It may not all be at one time there, so that might work out. It's kind of new to us, so we don't really know what to tell you.
And I would say this is kind of new to us too about
Right.
this type of request.
Yeah.
Would it be, and I'll just ask your thought on this, would it be a distraction? You know, that cars are still able to go north and south on Mill Street while you have your designated area where you're performing and people are able to come in and out of the building freely, but you still have the traffic on Main Street going on?
It seems like
It's not a high volume traffic street to begin with.
Yeah, it's really, seems kind of tight through a lot of the areas here in town, so, that's the only reason we're asking to maybe expand out into the street there on Mill.
And you're just wanting from the alley to the corner, correct?
Well, the alley behind our shop there, toward Main Street, yeah. And
The only problem I have with that situation, someone coming up 3rd Street, they don't know that they can't get through Mill Street, so they turn south on Mill Street.
Yeah.
They come to the alley, there's a barricade, well, then they have to turn around
Well,
and go back, so
I would think.
when I look at a half a street closing, I see that as being a problem. So, you know, realistically, I think, you know, if we were gonna close the street, we basically, I
Close it
think,
except
have
for
to
local
close the whole
access.
street.
Except for local access.
Except for residents that live along.
Whatever works,
you know.
that alley would be an access escape hatch out the back there, though, if they did get on that street and couldn't go all the way through, they could take the alley, but I don't,
Right.
that street at that time of the night's not really active, not
No.
real busy. After the school's gone, it's pretty decent, and not too heavy traffic. So I don't know, it's just something we wanted to try to.
Well, can we ask this, I think, Sue maybe, it's been provided the guidelines, I'd ask Hannah of that. And what we'd like to do is work through the guidelines, the event checklist, so to speak, with Sue
Okay.
and our team here.
Okay,
table this until the May 2nd meeting, which is the very next meeting.
That's
And then
fine.
we can come back in and talk about exactly what footprint we're closing and the coordination of the resources with streets and traffic and then have the safety plan in place. Would that be okay with you, Tony?
Fine with me, yes.
We appreciate you being here today. Is that, what does the other board want to do? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we table resolution 32-B to the May 2nd.
Okay. I'll second that. Any additional discussion? Any comments or questions from anyone in the audience? Tony, we'll get together with our team,
Okay.
Sue and you,
Thank you
and we'll
very
work out
much.
the plan, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Chief Wallace, we are on, probably gonna be 33, I'm assuming right now. 30, clerk, you wanna handle this?
Sure. The next resolution will be number 33B-2022, a resolution of the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, establishing a handicap parking space at 104 East 3rd Street. Whereas there has been a request by Wayne Detmer Sr. and Elise K. Detmer that the parking space directly in front of the residence at 104 East 3rd Street, Madison, Indiana, be established as handicap parking. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that 1, Section 1, the parking space directly in front of the residence located at 104 East 3rd Street, Madison, Indiana, is hereby established as handicap parking so long as Wayne Detmer Sr. and Elise K. Detmer are residents thereof. Section 2, upon such time as Wayne Detmer Sr. and Elise K. Detmer move from said residence, said parking space shall revert to regular parking. Section 3, the City of Madison Street Department is hereby authorized to erect such signs and other traffic control devices as may be necessary to implement the intent of this resolution. Section 4, this resolution shall become immediately effective upon its adoption by the Board of Public Works and Safety, signature of the mayor, enrollment in the book of resolutions, publication of notice as required by law, and posting of the appropriate signs at said intersection. Section 5, any resolution in conflict with this resolution is hereby repealed.
Hi, Chief.
Morning.
All right.
Afternoon now.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yep, so as Katie just read, the Detmers have requested a handicap parking space in front of their 104 East 2nd Street residence. Actually, their request was for it to be at the far east end of their 104 residence property lines, which obviously would be the length of the house on the east end of it. But having said that, they do meet all the requirements. The position has signed off. They do have a handicap parking permit with no off-street parking, so they would certainly meet all the requirements within the ordinance. And I don't believe that there is a handicap parking section or space in that particular block. So it would be my recommendation to the board to approve their request. I guess the only difference in what they requested and what the ordinance stated was directly in front of the house.
Yes, the resolution stated directly in front of the residence located at 104 East 3rd Street. So, and what you explained is it's at the eastern property boundary.
Is what they were
So we said,
requesting, yes.
okay, is where the sign would be erected.
That's what they were requesting for the sign
Okay.
erected.
Okay.
And I have spoken with Mr. Tevenals here. He lives directly to the east of them. And,
This is a zero lot line property where
correct. Their house is essentially
the houses
adjoining walls.
share a common wall to a
Right.
certain extent, so it's zero. Mr. Tevenal, did you want to make a remark while we're
Yeah,
on this?
if you don't
Okay,
mind.
thank you.
Patrick Teveno, 106 East 3rd. I don't have any problems with the request for a handicap spot. Wayne needs it. My only concern is with it being placed to the far east end of the property, it's not accessible on the sidewalk side from there, and got a picture here somewhere.
Thank you.
Their property is about right there. So my recommendation would be for this spot to be in front of the door, kind of highlighted with the blue line up where where it would work. I marked out on the street, I measured out where parking spaces would be, and that wouldn't eat up any additional space behind them or for the rest of the neighbors. Going to the east, it would still leave room for about 6 spots. And there's 3 of us who live on that side of the street. We all have 2 vehicles.
And that's the thing about side streets is they're not marked.
Yeah.
Right, so it's all kind of a first come, first serve, and do the best you can kind of parking. We have a comment back in the audience from our street superintendent. I might ask him to come up here and give a remark. Tony?
Yeah, I talked to Kenny Morsher. I had him go down there and check this out, and he got with me during the meeting here. And he said we do have some issues on that side of the street that we need to work out. I don't know what that means, but
Was he talking about, I mean, there are some barriers because there's the plant beds that are there. Doesn't necessarily, stop a car from parking in front of it, but, if you wanted to get out both sides, it might.
This is a different view.
Yep.
Three parking spaces.
There you go.
yeah, I think what Kenny's talking about is in regard to how many parking spaces we can get there. We want to keep as many as we can, and yet try to keep the access or the spot closest to the applicant as possible.
I'm sorry, what's the last part?
We want to keep put the space as close as we can to the applicant, but we also want to keep as many parking spaces there as we can. So we're the deal of always measuring the parking spots and everything. I'm pretty sure.
So is the concern, we're just throwing this out there, if the concern of the sign being in front of the door, that somehow changes the allotted parking spaces
Possibly, yeah.
just before and after it?
Yeah, and I don't know if there's a fire hydrant there that we have to be so many feet from. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
I don't think there's a fire hydrant.
Tony,
there.
I went over the weekend and looked at the area, got out and walked it. It looks to me like there may be 3 parking spots in front of this residence, taken from the corner of the edge of the yellow line going east. It looked like there may be 3 parking spots.
Okay.
My suggestion would be the middle of those 3, because it wouldn't interfere with it would come out between the 2 flower beds. It might make it easier access for the resident, get in and out of the car.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
And that is an active business on the far west end of that corner.
Yeah.
So you
Correct,
want,
that is-
yeah, try to keep that open.
Yeah,
so I think if you went over and measured whatever the distance that you use for parking
Right.
stalls,
Right.
if you went with the, like I said, the second one maybe going east might work out.
Yeah.
But I'll leave that up to you guys to,
Yeah, we'll work something out.
Figure
Try to make
that out.
everybody happy. Do what we can.
but I'm familiar with the individual, and the individual has some medical issues, and I'd be in favor of granting this request.
Thank you.
Motion.
And you doing it in front of the door, is that where you were
I-
looking at your
that's-
measurements?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, just for some more information, I measured off, our zoning, I think, is 22 feet for a parking stall. Main Street parking stalls up here 18 feet,
That's pretty
which
common.
are, yeah.
That's common.
If you go 22 feet, the second spot from the yellow line would be about in front of their door there. And I feel like we've got room, if it needs to be moved up or down a little. And in my opinion, as a neighbor, I think that would be the best solution for the Detmers to have easiest access to their house, and for everybody else to still have plenty of accessible parking.
Is this the Detmer's car that happens to be parked in front of their house right here, do you know?
I believe.
Silver one?
The silver one?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
And
is
Bob, since I'm a part of their family, can I address you
this,
now?
please come on up, yeah,
Oh,
please, yeah.
So, those of you who know me, Lisa Ferguson, 718 East Second. Elise and Wayne are my aunt and uncle. The closest thing to a mom and dad that I have now because they're gone. I see Madison through rose-colored glasses. and I refuse to take them off because I've lived here 3 years and love this place. This has been a very difficult thing for my aunt and uncle. My uncle's a veteran. He's very proud. He has fought us tooth and nail for 7 months that they've lived across the street now to get a handicap parking because he says he doesn't want people to see him as handicapped. Judy Kaler has picked him up at least 10 times off of the sidewalk, and you know how big Dr. Kaler is. So it's taken a long time for us to come up with, you have to get this done, I'm going. He's having major back surgery on Thursday. He'll be out of town for 8 weeks in rehab. Having said this, the positive that this has come to us is to say, we could not have survived the last 7 months without John Wallace, because he has stepped up to the plate every single phone call and every single time for us. So I want you all to recognize, and I do this every Tuesday at City Council. I have to toot somebody's horn, but I'm telling you, it's this man's.
He's America's chief.
He's America's chief. Patrick is making this all sound really nice. It's been a very not nice transition time for them to move from across the street over to where they're now. Not something they wanted to do, to move from 4,000 square feet to 1,100 square feet, to give up the look, because that's typically what the clubs are known for. The placement is not great for either of them because Diane is very much about how things look, and so consider that. At the same time, what we don't want to happen is for that parking spot to be deemed at a certain spot where it makes it so hard that an 82-year-old veteran has to figure out how to parallel park to get there. Those terrible stone things that are out there, which Patrick probably has pictures of, aren't there too much for beautification. They're there because when he falls, he can get over there and figure out how to get himself up from those. So the placement of the sign has a lot to do with those stones being there. I know they're not beautiful, but they're an assistive device when he falls. He fell last Tuesday over on St. Michael's. We had to go pick him up. He's falling a lot. So we don't want this sign, but we want the animosity that's going on to stop, because they're not sleeping. It's been ugly. And as a niece who's trying to assume responsibility then because their children don't live here, it's worn us out. So in a perfect world, in the 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s generationally, we wouldn't be talking about needing a spot to park in front of your own home, because somebody would say, because you're 82, elderly, and handicapped, I'll just give it up to you. That's not what's happened. I didn't want to come to this conclusion. I've tried to avoid this for 7 months, but I want to say, whatever we can do to get this done and passed. I've sat here for her because she said I cannot come to a meeting and cry. So I've been sitting here since 11:30 waiting to get to this point to simply say, can we just be kind about things? Can we just, I have a handicapped neighbor. I would never, if Laverne didn't have that sign, we don't park there at all because she has healthcare workers coming in and out. She has lawn care people. You don't have to tell me to not park in 4 spots next to her house. We don't do it. We park across the street from our own house because I am actually only 61 years old. So I'm able to do that. So I said all that to say simply, please thank John Wallace, because I'm telling you, Tony has been over there too many times to count, and I feel like he's got better things to do too. And John Wallace is my hero. So kudos. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Lisa. Chief, I may ask you, Councilman Seminole had given us a picture of 2 images with the car in 2 different locations, moved up versus moved back, kind of in between the flower beds. Would you take a look at this picture and tell us, or perhaps maybe you and Tony can also make a recommendation? I know that the resolution says directly in front of the residence. The residence is so many feet wide. There's the 2 flower beds. There's the hitching stone. Will you please make a recommendation on the placement? And I think that's what you were responding to as well, Dave.
I was thinking, yeah, we're just.
We're right, kind of about right there, which is closer to in front of the door.
Since,
Yeah.
since the resolution says directly in front of the house, and like I said, I think there's 3 parking places in front of the house. Could we get with the owners and let them pick which would be the best spot of the 3 areas? Which one would work better for them?
Lisa, do you know which ones they want?
Do you know where they want the sign, Lisa?
I don't know that. I just know that we don't want going to have to parallel park every time he comes in and out because there's other cars so close to their property line. I'm not saying he shouldn't drive. I'm saying let's just make it easier for somebody who's still driving at 81 years old to get in and out of his own home. That's our goal.
See, with your statement that not having him to parallel park, that tells me maybe the westernmost spot may be the best. A pull-in spot, you know, just
Well,
past the
further
yellow line
walk.
might be better.
Because along there, anywhere from the corner to the alley, unless you're pulling directly in, will require potentially parallel parking.
As I said, I wish that my aunt could come and speak to you and tell you what they want to have best for them. The least amount of steps to get in the door is what we go with right now, especially with a 9.5-hour back surgery coming up. The closest he can get to get inside. I don't know what they would pick. Charlie and I are just thinking as far as a getting in and out thing, parallel parking is difficult for all of us. And when there's other cars parked there, it just makes it harder. Patrick has a big truck, my uncle has a big islet or whatever. We just want what's best and simplest and easiest for them. I appreciate David saying, can we go over and ask them? Because that would be in my perfect world, to try to make it easier because they're older.
If you go with not having the parallel park, then the one on the space on the end is the better option. If you want what's closest to the front door, then that's the second spot, which is going to require parallel parking.
Right.
So I think if we ask the homeowner, which spot would you rather have, and then, because, I mean, the ordinance says it directly in front, well, there's 3 spots there, so, you know, I think we would still follow what the resolution says.
So you're saying with a recommendation from the owner? Yes.
Well, I would go with the chief's recommendation after further communication with the owner.
Yeah, I would like to do that. I think that we can work this out, so I would be happy to go down and Mr. and Mrs. Detmer's available, or Mrs. Detmer's available, and get with Patrick and see if we can't just work this out to everybody's benefit.
So
I think
today we
fewer
can
steps-
approve the placement of a handicap sign
Yes.
in front of the residence with the exact location to be decided upon by chief working with both of the residents in that block.
I agree. I think the closer we can get it to where Mr. Detmer can get out of his car and go right in his front door is going to be the most beneficial, but we also understand the concerns of parallel parking, so if we go down and approve this today, and go down and just have a little neighborhood meeting, see if we can't work it out to everybody's satisfaction. And
Well, I'll make a
do what's
motion to
best for Mr.
approve
Detmer.
resolution 33-B-2022.
I'll second David.
Any additional discussion? We appreciate America's Chief John Wallace, because we're so grateful for him. He's awesome. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
on that.
Thank you.
Moving on. Pace. We're still pacing ourselves. Director of Building, Planning, and everything in between. Nicole Schell.
Hello, I have 3 finals for you and 1 extension. So I'll go over the finals with you. The first is for 612 West Main Street, Ellie Troutman. She worked on the interior, or the storm doors, their exterior doors, and then the little entryway here. So you can see those befores and then her afters. So she painted the top ceiling and did some tile work on this home. It was completed according to her PACE grant, so she's asking for the full disbursement of $6,600.
Or is it okay with you, we do both of these at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
The next final is for 801 East Main Street, for McGillen Holdings LLC. This is the Victoria Inn, so you can see before it's there.
How close are they to having people living? They're very close.
They've completed the outside. I'm not sure what the status is on the interior, but I can find out.
What a fantastic transformation, going from a condemned property to one that now is receiving a long overdue facelift. I want to thank both Troutman and McGillen for their investment here.
Yes. Justin McGillen for McGillen Holdings is asking for the disbursement of $25,000.
Look forward to visiting, although they've already had an open house for the West Main Street property. Look forward to visiting 801 East Main soon. I'll move. Okay, yeah, one more?
Yeah,
One more, yep.
Okay.
And the last final is for 1213 West Main, for property owner 1213 West Main Street LLC. They completed renovations on this little home. And it looks great, so front and back, all the exterior work has been completed. So they're asking for the disbursement of $7,500.
I make a motion that we approve the finals at 612 West Main, 801 East Main, 1213 West Main.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Any comments or questions from the audience? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great.
And then I have one extension, Steve Buchanan for 713, 715 West Main Street is asking for a 1-month extension. All they have left is to caulk the smart board siding. With the rain, they've been having some issues getting that done before their deadline. So their new deadline would be May 18th, 2022.
That property is also looking fantastic. So I'll move we approve extension for 713, 715 West Main Street.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Fantastic.
Thank you.
How is the next round of applications looking that will come before us?
They're good. I haven't counted how many we have, but we have at least 5, I would say. It's probably more than that. But they'll May 10th to review those, and then they'll be on your second May meeting.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We should call this Uber pace because it's doing such Uber work. Uber investment. Okay, board, let's go to claims. It's been a long, productive meeting.
Mayor had an opportunity to review the claims. I'll make a motion that the claims be approved as submitted.
Second David's motion.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Mayor's comments, nothing much to add here. We had a neighborhood meeting last week with the Oak Hill residents that live up there. We had a hot dog and a little bit of a pitch in. We had good turnout. I want to thank both of you all for being there. Good turnout to talk with the residents about the construction plans for the streets, the gutters, the sidewalks, visioning for the park, and as we all concluded, it's a long overdue investment by the city in one of the city's largest and oldest hilltop neighborhoods. So we're real glad to see it happen and anxious to see progress. They've already mobilized to the site, and they've been working on site for a couple of weeks now. And we'll also be curing some much-needed drainage work up there, drainage issues. Lots more to come, and I will mention to the board that at tomorrow's city council meeting will be the first reading of the ordinance for the establishment of the new water rates. So that's first reading tomorrow. City council water rate study's been concluded, and so now we'll begin the process with city council with regards to reviewing the rates which have not been modified since 2008. Again, another long overdue and very necessary investment in our water infrastructure that provides water to 75% of Jefferson County. So if you have time, you're not doing anything, you want to attend a very exciting meeting tomorrow night, come to that, because we'll also be having presentations by Super ATV and CRM for the investments they are proposing on the hilltop with the expansion of Super ATV and the investment in the new shopping center. We'll also be making an announcement at tomorrow night's meeting with regards to the new shopping plaza. So hopefully you guys can make it, and we invite the public. Any public comments or any other remaining remarks by the board?
Public's gone.
We wore them out.
I'll make a motion with adjourn.
Well, Dave might have some. Dave's always
No.
got something. Dave's like Jerry Springer with final thoughts.
I'm finished.
All right, make a motion with adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed. Thank you, board. Thank you.
Long meeting, so.
Thank you, Bob.
We want, but Bob go around.
I know, looking around, everybody.